FDC against me. I had a Democratic Party candidate, and I emerged the winner. So I'm independent. Because everyone fronted against me, and the will of everyone fronting against a candidate against you is their desire for you not to go through. And I defeated them. 2021, Noob had a candidate against me who was the brother of the person you're talking about. We campaigned for earlier on, and the history is very clear that that same candidate stood against me through NRM in 2016. And the Noob president came to campaign for an NRM candidate in 2016 against me. So pick your facts very well. And now this time he was Noob against me, which is his right. And then we had FDC against me, we had ANT against me, and we had NRM, and I emerged winner. Therefore, if you want to prove who is independent, I'm not driven by anyone. I'm independent. So you had President Museveni campaign for Mr. Cedric Bamu, a friend of mine, an amazing guy. You had Mr. Kyagulanyi campaign for his brother. You had Mr. Mugisha Muntu campaign for Mr. Senguke. You had FDC with his Deputy Secretary General, Harold Kaija, and 3 other independents. And I emerged winner. Therefore, am I independent in your opinion? Yes or no? No, because I'm responding to you. Now you are aware that no one wanted me to be where I am. It is my energy and the energy of the people of Kampala that gave me their mandate. Because they exactly know what quality of leader they have. And that is only found in Kampala Central, I can assure you. We are not swung by waves. In Kampala Central, they look at your quality and aspirations and they'll vote for you. If you don't fit within that, they'll reject you. Now, the issue of Noob. Noob has been, as a party, was there as another party under Mr. Chibalama. I think it has been there for about... From 2004. And Mr. Kamugisha says you've been attacking Noob since Noob was there. Okay, you've been attacking Noob, and your desire is to have it become like DP. The answer is that I don't agree with you. Noob was there since 2004. I was not even in politics. I don't know where and when I've been attacking Noob. But now you say, let's talk about the current Noob. Mr. Kyagulanyi joins Noob in 2021, and you say you've been attacking Noob. No. I have divergent opinions with the people of Noob. When we define opinion, it doesn't mean we are attacking one another. The difference is their response to those that define opinion with them. Mr. Lawyer came up with a divergent opinion. Who has attacked him? The politics of character assassination is the basis of the survival of some empty politicians. Let us sit on panels, because let me show you that we work together. We sit together with members of the National Unity Platform on committees in Parliament. I'll give you even the last example before I go to dissect the last point where you narrowed it down. There are committees chaired by people of Noob where you sit in Parliament. When we are presenting ideas on the floor, we agree on some and maybe differ on others. When they are put to the test of the vote, we win some, we lose the others, but that is democracy. When a few people of my supporters, who are also supporters of candidates of Noob, were arrested, I went for the first time as a lawyer and represented them in courts of law. And we had 46 of them freed. And this was me practicing before the Chief Magistrate of Buganda Road to free some of them, because there were no reasons as to why they would be in jail. I don't remember you picking up on that to say you also helped here and there. Now let's go back to the history. When Mr. Kyagulanyi was going to contest, we are some of the people who supported him, and he doesn't deny this because I've said it publicly. Meaning, it didn't mean that he did not wish the opposition well, but it meant that he was also independent, he had his own views, and the people of Kyadondo chose him. Did it mean that he was against the opposition then? Because the candidate that had been thrown out by the NRM person through court process was an opposition candidate. Assuming we are all saying, let's all galvanize our energies and support an opposition candidate, why then did he back the opposition candidate that was in that area so that we consolidate the power of the opposition that was there then? I don't blame him for that, because our constitution provides for independent candidature. He presented himself, the people in Kyadondo voted for him, and the person who was manning the biggest parish that brought him into force into that chair was my own sister. His support. Arua Debako comes and he gets into maybe problems, who are some of the people who presented the matter on the floor of Parliament. The Honorable Zake was beaten very badly, and we were asked to say, no, this is not right. Our colleague deserves to be treated. However, for me the biggest problem comes from this petty politics of thinking we must discuss individuals of our country. We should sit in these rooms and dissect matters that touch the ordinary person, not Nsereka Kyagulanyi, because tomorrow Nsereka Kyagulanyi won't be there, but Uganda must continue. Let's sit here and you ask us. That is why it's very absurd. We are talking about people who did not have the courtesy to come and have effective representation. And the apology was that they were invited and they did not turn up. The best thing would be, Mr. Kamugisha, is how we have the politics of tolerance, not hearsay. So and so said, Reverend Kamugisha, Yalia. Oh, he's a moral. And then we move by that. No. Let us see your action. Let us see what you speak. Does it add value to the ordinary Ugandan? And that's standing above petty politics of discussing individuals. And I would like to categorically state that we are slowly building the same systems that will build other dictatorships if we are not sane. Because we glorify individuals over systems. The issue should be how, where, and how do you differ? For me, I'll only ask for the following. Please, if Nope, you think Mohammed is a good person, and you believe he's an addition, he has asked you for the following. Give me your plan on education. Give me your tax plan. Give me your plan on transport. Give me your plan on X, Y, and Z. If I buy it, I'm free to join any party. By the way, I'm like that beautiful girl outside there. I'm independent. If you believe I have some value and substance, talk to me. Because that is the only way, sorry, as I wind up, you can only feel my impact because Noop has 56 members of parliament. Why is it that the independent member of parliament, you're feeling my heat more than the 56? Meaning there is something. I might not be perfect, we are all not perfect, but there is something that I possess that not most other people, maybe within the party or even in other parties, might not have. So let's have that dialogue, but coming to that dialogue with open hearts and open minds, but not character assassination. That will not be acceptable because it's blackmail. It's a card that has always been used by those that cannot put ideas on the table. When you defeat them with the brains, they run to blackmail. Thank you, Reverend. We meet in the next one.
We have a question by this gentleman here. about
my brother in Arsenal, I am an Arsenal fan. And,
so we want the panel to respond to the 5 questions that have been asked. So that's what we are doing before we can get another set of 5. Please.
The question was, we leaders, and what are we trying to do out there? Why don't we just come up and make the thing happen? The Democratic Party and NRM have shown you that we can have the divergent views, but for the good of the nation, we are sitting together, not because we are one entity. Kenya has done that. You know that there is Azimio la Umoja, and the other umbrella, you come in with your party, you have Wiper, you have ODM, you have Charity Ngilu's party, and all that. When you go to Kenya Kwanza, you know that Musalia Mudavadi was for 10 years against Ruto. You know that Masika Wetangula, with his party Ford Kenya, for 20 years he's been against Ruto. Today, because they had to cooperate and work together for the vision of Kenya that they wanted to see. Today Masika is a speaker, and in Kenya Kwanza, but Masika has not folded his party to throw it away. We're trying to ask Uganda that we can have different ideologies, but sit together for this one project called Uganda. And you have a very big stake in trying to let our Ugandans know that even the building of this nation was the building block that came together. For them, we may not agree altogether, but we agree on the project Uganda. We, as an entity, believe that we have come to this project as an initiative to put together what we want to do. And for me, the question for negotiation and dialogue for the country we want to see is a discussion that is not one day, but we believe that we have started something within our right and as a party to put ideas of negotiation. Even Uganda becoming a nation was an entity of coming together, and the party I come from believes in continuous engagement. Even when in 1970, when nobody wanted to work with Amin, Benedict Waluka, in his own view and the party he led, worked with Amin because Uganda then wanted that initiative. So for me, it's about trying to do something. We came up with this cooperation and we believe that it can deliver Uganda to where we want to go. Others have way. Maybe let us allow them to do way again there, and maybe it can also deliver Uganda, as long as we get to the same line of where we want to go. The question is the politics of deceit. My sister, we went after election to engage as IPOD. When we went to do an engagement of IPOD, some people are happy as long as they are scoring and you're liking their likes. They don't care about how many young people in prison. Actually, what they are trying to present that they are fighting for people in prison is not right. They are trying to lie you because they want the likes for you to feel sympathy. We went and 69 people were released, including his music partner, Nubian Lee. What did we gain? Was Nubian Lee, I am talking about my sister, I have moved already to my sister, who said we young people are in prison and all those. We in political leadership as well are not honest. When we present certain things, we're not honest. You abuse the processes of IPOD, but through the IPOD processes, we have been in position to get allocation of monies to political parties through IPOD. The Democratic Party gets 200 million. The party insulted for getting the government or getting the money. No, is walking away with over 50 billion annually. So who is the more from the two? The one getting 200 million annually, or the one getting 5 billion? Who is the more from the two? So our leaders only speak about what does not benefit them. And when we come into the entity of the community, we continue saying how Agende and how is bad. If you don't want and say I'm not your father, then you don't have to come and fight to be a heir of what does not belong to you. So for me, is that we need to engage, and the spirit of engagement is very central into what we want to go. And if we want to build and fit within the stronger block of the community is open engagements and open criticism, so that we present a policy alternative on paper. Our policy is engagement. Some people think their policy is agende and we are going to Muntebe. That's okay. But when he goes, what do you present? So what you have in terms of, okay, he has gone. So what is the policy alternative that you have? So for me, I believe that we, as a diaspora community, we should start criticizing and critiquing whatever we hear home. It's not that we've taken. We should have open critique, so that we open say, this is what is there, this is a position, this, then we go. So I agree that the question for engagement starts from here. So that we tolerate, have tolerance, and agree that let us present different ideas. And whatever idea wins, then we go with that wins. There we'll be building a stronger community. Finally, because the way they were structured will not even allow us to say why you are invited us to something. I believe that you do a very important contribution to the community. When you look at Kenya, it's only Uganda that does not have a diaspora policy. Kenya has a diaspora policy in terms of they manage and track the huge potential of our people from within the region. And as a region and as a legislator, we believe that it is time that if we cannot maybe have a law, we draft a policy in terms of the whole regional bloc of the 7 countries. How do we tap the contributions of our people? Imagine if we had a trust fund that all our resources go into together, then our nations can actually borrow from the trust fund rather than running from the loan sharks from within, because there is a huge potential of what we're trying to do. But every nation within our region bloc has their own way on how they're trying to manage a thing. We have come up with a policy on migration and refugees, and we believe that it's timely that as a region, we look broader on how do we tap from the huge potential of our people that are here.
Can I get somebody to respond to his question about documents acceptable in Ugandan institutions if you don't have any of the other documents, the Ugandan document, right? If he's an American, he has an American passport, you want to transact business in Uganda, how is this person served? There's also another question about constitutional reform and constitutionalism. How do we set the country to constitutionalism?
Thank you, Moderator. But before Dr. Opio lawyer here raised a question about protection of children in Uganda, and I want to assure him and all the others that we have laws that protect children. The fact that there are some criminal acts, like you mentioned, some children being raped, doesn't mean that there are no laws protecting children. We have lawyers in this room who have defended children under those, like we have a child law in Uganda. So you can only talk about strengthening it, but there is a law that protects children. On land, you raised the question on land, about the people in the diaspora, which type of land ownership should they go for? First of all, the issues which we talk about land in Uganda, the land of grabbing, the CD, I would invite you to read a book by Lesotho called The Mystery of Capital. What is happening in Uganda today happened here in the United States of America. About land. There's nothing new. In fact, at one stage, the president that I don't recall which president, the land of a president of America had been encroached upon here in America. So it's just a historical process which we are going through. We shall perfect it, but definitely now, if you go to during 1994 when we were discussing the Constitution, the members of the Constitutional Assembly, especially from Acholi and the rest of northern Uganda, they said for us, our land, we want it managed through it's communally owned, customary owned. And we have to respect it. The ones in Uganda were saying we must respect Milo land. We have to respect it because the law of the land must reflect the cultural values and all the values at the time. There's no big difference between Milo land and the other and freehold. They are basically the same. But there was a lot of sentiments if you remove the Milo. So we left it there. So I couldn't see any problem. It's a process. It can be perfected. Today in northern Uganda, some people are now owning land individually. The time then was saying, your land here is culturally owned. We said, fine, we have no problem with it. So, but we didn't want to impose a system, and people say, the government, the NRM has imposed itself on the people of Acholi, giving them a tenure system they don't understand. They said, for us, we understand communal, we agree with it. So, if you are in the diaspora and you want to own land communally, you're free. If you want to own land in the Milo land, because if you buy land in Uganda, which is a Milo land, you can keep it as Milo land. So that was not a big problem as far as I'm concerned. There was a question on transition, initial transition. Comment. See, transition, and my colleagues here, before I came over, I talked about transition. Uganda had a transition from 1986 to 1996. That's when we had the Constitutional Review Commission, the Dutch Commission, which went around the country, gathering views on how Uganda should be governed. We had the Constituent Assembly in 1994, with the Constitution being promulgated in 1995. And since 1995, the Constitution set the way forward for Uganda. In my opinion, there's no need for any more transition. Because the Constitution, and I have had a lot of arguments with my friend Goldberg, I'm sure who is here. We both stay in Kampala. We appear together on a talk show on Wednesday, on one of the radios called KFM, and we always disagree on this matter. But in my opinion, since 1995 Constitution came into effect, which sets elections in Uganda for the president, for parliament, for local government, every 5 years. Then when you want to talk about the transition? For when? Because we had an election in 2021. We're going to have another election in 2026. Shall have another one in 2031. Like that, every 5 years. So when someone talks about we need a transition to do what? Because the Ugandans are there. We shall have elections. Now, if you want to replace Museveni, it's just not maybe it's a question of language.
No, that's a transition. I mean,
It's not. You have to have an election. If you defeat the president if he offers himself, then you take over power. Because if you talk about the transition, then what will you have that election? What if President Museveni had lost? Immediately, Chagulanyi or another person or Mao wouldn't have become a president. Comrade Mao here has stood against President Museveni twice. Was that a transition or not? Yes and lost. But if he had won, I would be addressing him as His Excellency, President of Uganda. He's here. So, if you are talking of a transition, I don't understand it, because we have an election. if President Museveni, if the NRM does not offer President Museveni as the candidate, and it brings the Honorable Hamson Obwa as its candidate, and he wins the election, would that be transition or not? That would have been won an election. If it brings my friend Mr. Muhindo here, as he's a civil servant, but if he was a politician and he NRM candidate. So for us in NRM, we shall agree at another moment whom to bring next to stand for elections. But the fact that President Museveni has stood for many elections and won, and he's going away, you see it as a transition. Yes, you can say President Museveni is not there as the candidate, but that's not a transition. As long as NRM can offer a candidate, whether it is President Museveni or it offers another person, the people of Uganda are the one with the power to elect who is the next president.
Mr. Delhanga, can we address these other questions, please?
Okay, somebody addressed the issue that if you are an American and you appear in court in Uganda, maybe I will leave that to my friend, my colleague Mao. Definitely, from what I know, a foreigner in Uganda can be represented, if it is the case in Uganda. If you have an American passport and you don't have a Ugandan identification document, you can still be presented in court in Uganda if the case is committed in Uganda. That's the least I can say about it. Somebody raised an issue of about diaspora and said, why don't we increase staffing the embassies? Well, that's a good idea, but it doesn't take away that even when the embassies the staff at the embassies are many increased, the issues of diaspora go away. They will still be there. And in fact, what we would demand of you in diaspora, like through UNAA, if within yourselves you created a link person who the diaspora desks in Uganda can deal with, because at the end of the day, the issues are individual. When we come here, we gather as UNAA, fine, we talk to each other. But when we live here, everybody is there, states, whatever they are. Now, apart from the issues gathered in a meeting like this, of which are of a general concern, so I would implore the executive of UNAA to have a link of how do you raise issues concerning your community in the diaspora. Then they will be easily dealt with, whether at the embassy, whether at back home. Even the embassy, if there is more staff at the embassy, they will need a link person at home to deal with, to handle that matter. But as far as the staffing of the embassy are concerned, that's a financial issue. It will depend on the budget, it's a budgeting issue. It will depend on the availability of funds, but still you need to be more organized so that your issues can come through a voice other than picking them individually. Thank you.
Mine is just quick. In terms of the embassy and the resources, what really happens is that we have a good relationship, we have a good working relationship with UNAA, but we're cognizant in that not every Ugandan comes to these annual events, or are they, neither are they members of UNAA. So therefore, we're looking at unity in terms of Ugandans, whether they're members of UNAA or non-members of UNAA. So for example, if you have a UNAA connection but you want to talk to someone else and they don't, we have an email address. So send us an email. In the subject, maybe you can put lands, right? Or whatever your issue is. And then we're able to forward that to Ministry of Lands or whatever other ministry there is. But we just wanted to make sure that that the embassy can be responsive to your needs. Thank you.
Let me be quick. Listening to the conversation, I think we are each having our own definitions of some of the terms we are throwing around. For instance, I see that Moses Biarahanga's definition of transition is different from mine. And it's definitely different because the word transition can be broad. Here in America, people even transit from being a man to a woman and vice versa. They also call it a transition. And that's why you professors always say before you attempt a question, you first define the terms so that your answer can be framed correctly. If you are learning to drive and each time you shift gear from 1 to 2, the engine goes off, obviously you have a problem. That's what has been happening in Uganda. We have not shifted smoothly. So that's the context in which we discuss transition. In America, even there is a transition committee. When Obama was leaving and Trump was coming in, they had a committee for several months, they meet and so on. Now in Uganda, this is something we only hear about. Even in UNAA today, there will be a transition. That's a transition indeed. But imagine if we have had one president of UNAA, that's from the 35 years ago. I think the discussion about transition in UNAA would be different. So I think let's first of all agree on what we are discussing. We are discussing this because Ugandans are anxious about Uganda after President Museveni. And I can't blame Ugandans being anxious because we live with the ordinary people. And we must give Ugandans assurance. And that's why we even talk to the generals and we say, will you protect the constitution? You know, I have to tell you, me, I'm ever politically incorrect anyway. The subject of transition, some people don't want to talk about it, but we must talk about it. We have to. So the generals tell us, nobody will impose unconstitutional change in Uganda. Now that gives me comfort. So I go back in my garage in the Ministry of Justice, and but we have other issues. You know, we have really hurt each other. There are issues we must deal with. Even America, you know, after the Civil War, one time I had the stupidity to go to Georgia and praise Abraham Lincoln. The guys descended on me like bees, telling me that that man committed genocide, and I had touched the raw nerve. So that's why President Museveni in June 2021 announced among the bills to be presented to Parliament what is called the Transitional Justice Bill. Namely, we have to heal the wounds. Every part of Uganda has suffered. Blood has flowed everywhere. How do we forgive each other? And how do we go back to what Honorable Sereko said, the foundational issues? There are cracks at the foundation. We must heal those cracks. So, if we are going to face the future with confidence, then we must at least do a transition. And transition does not mean a different party even. Tanzania has been having transition. They have had one party. But I don't think Tanzanians stay awake worrying about, because they have done it. You know something you have never done. You know, all of you must remember the first time you flew in an aeroplane. You know, I once flew in an aeroplane with Joseph Cohen's sister. She really vomited all over me. She was clinging onto me like, so Ugandans are likely to vomit when we're doing that. No, there are some who are going to vomit because there's always the first time. So we must say that President Museveni has also been dismissive about the topic of transition. On the 25th of August 2018, I broached the subject. You may have seen a video on YouTube when I said, Mr. President, wouldn't it be great if you attended a swearing-in ceremony where you are not the one being sworn in? Of course, only Norbert Mao can talk like that. So, The president stood up and said, "This is very petty talk." That's what he told me. I'll even read for you what he said, because I wrote it down. Then he said, "Politics, in my view, should be about peace, education, health, infrastructure, and wealth in homes. However, people do not care about these things. Leaders seem to forget what they should do." But being somebody who loves history, I also went back to what he said when he wasn't the president. He said, "The immediate problem of Uganda is not economic but political." You see, when you are outside, it is called point of view. So obviously, Moses Biaranga's point of view may not be the same as yours. Because he even said, "Transition for what?" You know? For what? And to what? So now, as the Minister of Justice who came into government, based on a document on which this topic is discussed, I think I'm within my province to say that we still need to have a lot of internal conversations, and I can assure you political questions are important. So let me finish what President Museveni said. When the political questions were mishandled, the economic problem ensued. And unless the political question is amicably resolved, there will be no economic recovery in Uganda. So, we are talking about sequencing. So, we may be facing what you call a conundrum. A conundrum is a crisis without an alternative. So, and that's why there's all this stone throwing. Some people now blame Mao as if I'm the one who is the president. If when you hear people talk about Norbert Mao, you even wonder how powerful that Norbert Mao is. You know, people talk about Moses Nsereko as if Muhammad Nsereko, as if, you know. So what if I drop dead tonight? You know? So I think we must talk about at this DP we have done transition, which NRM hasn't. In their party, I'm the 6th president of DP. We have done a transition, and they'll surely, nobody's anxious about presidency of DP. So, this topic must be discussed within the context of the national anxiety. Now, Moses says our fears are unfounded. Okay, if the fears are unfounded, then because it is those with power who cause pain to a nation. It is not those without power. Even when you talk about genocide in Rwanda, it was the government which was behind Interahamwe. Even the Nazis, they were in power. So when people are anxious about what those with power are likely to do, then you must restore that faith. I believe that there are some scenarios we have to talk about. Assuming, because now we have, the NRM has got the group which says, Mzee Tova Kumeni. Stay right there. You're not moving. Then once in a while you have groups that come and criticize them, and then they say, who are you to talk about our choice of candidate? That's their legitimate right. And then there are those who say, he must go. Now those are wings. For us, we are here, and in the context of the question, this lady asked, how can political leaders in Uganda foster a culture of tolerance, inclusivity, and respect for diverse opinions among young people, promoting peaceful dialogue and democratic values? I have in my office a draft of a law known as Transitional Justice Bill, and in that bill, we have a proposal for a National Dialogue and Reconciliation Commission. We must know, we must talk about the suffering Ugandans have undergone, because that's how Ugandans, especially the children, also stop playing with fire. Because when I hear the young people spitting venom on YouTube and so on. They do not know. So the other thing which is causing a misunderstanding is the apparent shift of allegiances. It was perceived that if you are from the north, you must oppose President Museveni and NRM till death. Yeah, so now, if somebody like me says, and you call yourself an Acholi, you know, how can an Acholi talk like that? You know, the truth is, everybody views context and situations. I recommend a book by Professor Otono. It is called Crisis of Legitimacy and Political Violence in Uganda. He talks about a Joshua Mukasa and a George Ogwang, a Muganda and a Lango, who are neighbors in Kampala. So at that time, Obote Okello outfit had been evicted. So Mukasa perceived President Museveni as a legitimate leader because he brought an end to what he referred to as political violence by Anyanya. So the legitimacy was viewed on, this guy is good because he ejected these other bad guys. Irrespective of whether his pocket was empty or what, but you know, it was saying, Kasta Tueva Kakutulo. In '96, I was on the Semogere campaign team. And we were told off wherever we went in Uganda that you guys are bringing back Obote, you are a bunch of rascals, you don't appreciate. But it was a competition. So, President Museveni's legitimacy was that he dislodged the previous government, who were a threat to security of the Baganda. So Mukasa maintained his view, despite the fact that some Baganda monarchists and people like Andrew Kahira actually wanted to get rid of President Museveni. They were a small group. And the so-called Anyanya was viewed as representatives of political violence. Now, Ogwang, at that time, perceived President Museveni as illegitimate, and even in the book of Otono, he says he viewed Museveni's regime as having a profound crisis of legitimacy because in his view, it was dominated by Tutsi refugees who disguised themselves as Banyankole and Ugandan Banyarwanda. And Ogwang maintained that the regime had engaged in deliberate marginalization and extermination of the Langi. Ogwang maintained his perception, despite the fact that many people from Lango were actually in the government of President Museveni. And now, 1992, the two neighbors were robbed by armed robbers perceived as Banyankole. And Mukasa said, this is an ordinary crime, it is not sanctioned by the regime. And the fact that the robbers are Banyankole like Museveni did not mean that the robbery was politically motivated. Now, Mukasa being a Muganda, he saw that the incident could not alter his view. Ogwang believed that this was actually a planned robbery supported by the regime. And Ogwang also was feeling vulnerable. So, meanwhile, Mukasa was feeling secure. So, vulnerability versus security. Fast forward, 2009. Now, this is the scenario. They switched their perceptions. Ogwang realized that the only way to survive in the country was by becoming a vocal supporter of Museveni's ruling party. Perceived and he perceived the killing of 30 unarmed Baganda protesters by the police and the army in September 2009 as a regrettable accident. Ogwang also claimed that the government had the right to stop the Kabaka of Buganda from visiting a part of his kingdom because the inhabitants of that area did not want to belong to the Buganda kingdom. Mukasa, on the other hand, perceived both the killing of 30 Baganda protesters and government decision to stop Kabaka from visiting a part of his kingdom as deliberate acts of political violence by the regime. In fact, at that time, Mukasa declared, this regime has no legitimacy in Buganda. This is the same Mukasa. By the way, this is a true story. Now, it raises a number of questions. Whose perception is objective? and whose perception is subjective. Who determines what is objective or subjective really? Seen from another location, historical context and time, does an objective reality become a subjective reality or vice versa? From the vantage point of Mukasa, his perception is objective because he is informed by what in his mind is an objective reality. Similarly, from Obama's view of his world, his perception is objective because it is informed by objective reality. So I think, the point that I'm trying to make is that tolerance must first of all begin with empathy. I must appreciate where you are standing. I am the same Norbert Mao who stood up in a conference in Kampala and said, we must now create the Nile Republic at this rate. This is the Minister of Justice of Uganda now. The next morning, the president called me. You are even worse than Joseph Kony. And this Joseph Kony is fighting to take over the whole of Uganda. Who you want to cut it? I said, I'm sorry, Mr. President, but understand the context of my statement. I was at Hotel Equatoria. A professor like you, after listening to me, my complaints about the refusal of the government to change its policy of total war to one of engaging the rebels, and of course America had declared NRA a terrorist, and America and Uganda were good friends, so we had problems here. That's why we had to come and campaign the Clinton. I don't think there's any actually who voted Democrat, because this Bush who came in and appointed a special envoy for northern Uganda and LRA affected areas, Ambassador Tim Shortley, and then Bush legitimized the idea of talking to the LRA. But those were objective realities we were dealing with. Somebody who is in Kisugu in Kampala obviously would think that Norbert Mao is a supporter of rebels. So we should not simplify some of these complex issues. Now, when you are dealing with an issue of young people, right now, the people of Buganda say, why has northern Uganda now started supporting the NRM? I've given you the explanation. Number one, President Museveni changed his policy and allowed peace talks. He went and signed that peace agreement alone. And he promised, he said, whether Joseph Kony signed this agreement or not, I am going to unilaterally implement it. In fact, for us, that agreement is the NRM manifesto for us. The NRM manifesto which Byaruhanga presents to us is the secondary to that peace agreement. Because it is in that peace agreement where all our issues, land issues, the issue of reconciliation, compensation for cattle stolen, and so on. That really. So people must understand that it's not as simple as eating. How many people can the government feed? Yes. Well, if yours is stolen, one day I will see whether you use the word lost or stolen. So that marked a fundamental shift. And then the president went to an IDP camp in Amuro and apologized. Because one elder said, you are an old general. Don't you see the way we are? How can we be like this when you are there? You know, the president said, I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry for not protecting you people. So there are things that have happened that we need to narrate to people to understand. On the other hand, I maybe we'll discuss it another time because we don't have all the time to discuss all this. The culture of tolerance must start from us, the leaders. I was the first person to write an article presenting Robert Kyagulanyi as a potential leader. And I was attacked by those who are now leaders in his party. They said, you're just promoting some guy with the weird hair and we spent over $150,000 US equivalent of Democratic Party money to promote unity of the opposition. Because I even proposed to Robert Kyagulanyi, you can come and run on a DP ticket if you want. We are even willing to amend the DP constitution. So now, simply because we openly signed an agreement, and by the way, it is on record that Dr. Besigye has been talking to President Museveni through mediators, but he will deny it on his mother's grave that he was not talking. You know, it is like courtship. If you are courting a lady in Texas and you are in Uganda and there's somebody going as a go-between, are you not courting? You are definitely courting. You may not be directly meeting. So, it starts with honesty, my dear sister. A culture of tolerance cannot thrive in Uganda if we are dishonest. We must first and foremost be honest. Our elders from Acholi went to Luwero to apologize. They were not the ones who killed people there. Why did they do it? Because those were our children. And as Africans, we take responsibility. Of course, they were insulted by the Acholi in the diaspora. You are ashamed. That was a war. How do you apologize? So, but they went and they apologized. It was a good thing for them to do it. So tolerance begins with acknowledging when you have wronged a person. So it is you people now to stop propping up those who are the fire starters. You know, there are people in the diaspora here who wake up in the morning, they have become opinion leaders, but they really don't have any opinion worth listening to. You know somebody, you find young Ugandans, they have earphones, they're listening to somebody in the diaspora who is saying, this is Norbert Mao from Boston. Today I have something new. Please like and share. You know, I understand YouTube pays money. So maybe it is also a job. It may be a gig. So now Uganda, you may think President Museveni is going to be chased tomorrow. Eh? Yes, they say General Saleh is dead. That Norbert Mao is on the hit list of President Museveni. That now they say Norbert Mao killed Olanya. That I killed Lokech. That Olanya was long dead when we flew to Seattle. That Mao was just paid a lot of money to deceive the Acholi that Olanya was alive. And there was even a demonstration. I spoke to Wechitiwa, Moses Mayaja in Seattle. I said, you are a Kabaka's representative. Tell those people not to behave like that. In Africa, we don't do that. Now, when Betty Namboze ended up in hospital at the cost of over $400,000 of taxpayers' money, I didn't see a demonstration outside the hospital room. I received a message asking, how is the battle condition? He said, perfect, because I'm surrounded. So, even me, I'm surrounded. I can fire in any direction. I cannot miss. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Robert Mao.
Did I dodge your question?
I think. Let me interject. What he has presented has actually answered the constitutional reform and the constitutionalism from the other gentleman. I need 5 more people.
Excuse me. There was a matter of law from a gentleman there.
I think it was answered.
No, absolutely not. The gentleman asked something that can affect every one of you.
Yeah.
Assuming you are outside the country and you are pursuing maybe a civil matter in Uganda. Now, it is based on 2 points. He says he has no physical address. In this case, how do you view yourself? Are you the plaintiff or the defendant? Because if you're the plaintiff and you're the one filing the suit, you would have appointed your lawyer to be your contact person as the addressee. Therefore now, that ceases to exist. Now, assuming you bought land, you're not in Uganda, there is someone who has to serve you according to our laws in civil procedure, personally, or to confirm to court that you have been served and summons have been issued and service has, because we need what we call effective service on the person, so that the right to be heard according to our constitution is clearly reflected and that the spirit in serving justice has been delivered. Now, we have what we call substituted service. In the Civil Procedure Act, the person who is filing against you applies to court after having failed to get you, applies to court to find alternatives on how to effectively serve you. Amongst others, is through those persons that might be known to you, or through the embassy, then to contact you through our mission in a place where you are, or even electronically through your email known to you, as long as you can have an electronic signature at the moment it has been accepted. So after that, if you will be there present to defend now in this matter, you state it, or you appoint a person to represent you by issuing what we call the powers of attorney to that person to fully represent you. You attach that and swear an affidavit, and then that can be put onto the record of court, and you can effectively be presented. Then you can further apply to court to make some of your submissions electronic. Now, the courts of law in Uganda have shifted to the electronic issuance of justice, and at least that is one of the things we are achieving here and then. So the use of technology is also helping us. We are using it in Parliament. We are also using it in the justice system to deliver justice, but also have interactions, whether interfacing with witnesses or delivering justice. Thank you very much. Hope that answers your question.
You're a U.S. citizen. Yes. When you swear to become a U.S. citizen, you denounce your citizenship for Uganda. So you already have a Bible. So what happens in that situation?
Oh, that's amazing. So you, now we are not on litigation.
Yes.
Now, no, the law is actually very clear at the moment. Land in Uganda can be owned by anyone in the following tenure. If you're a citizen of Uganda, you can own it under milo or freehold. When you cease to be a citizen of Uganda, for sure, the interpretation, no, that's the reality. That is the reality, is that you've also ceased to own the entire rights towards property. I'm coming to that. Towards property as a citizen, because you've denounced. However, if you're a dual citizen, then you can own it. But you've decided to denounce Ugandan citizen, and therefore you are addressed as Mr. Jacob Ramson, an American citizen. And the law cannot be waived just for you. So the only thing that Uganda offers is that even after denouncing, we are the only country where you come back and reapply to have dual nationality or as many nationalities as you want. No, even through a company, but as a minority shareholder. So if you have your father and he becomes the majority shareholder, a company can hold it in form of milo. But individually, you can only do the other way. We can't bend the law just because one citizen of Uganda denounced and became Korean. Thank you. No, they don't own it illegally. The only thing that can be reformed is if you have such a scenario and you still want to own that land. The advice that normally lawyers give to those people at the moment that you still want to own it alone. Of course, what you do, you appoint maybe a brother, you transfer to that person, then they issue you a lease of 99 years. That is if you've not worked out your modalities of citizenship, and then you create clauses that there will be automatic renewal of this lease, it cannot be cancelled, and with the paid payment, because it's an agreement of, let's say, 500 shillings, Uganda shillings, automatic renewal. But
let us take this also as homework, because I think we need to see what we can do. Yeah, let us take it as homework. I'm going to have a discussion with the Attorney General and we see what are the possibilities. Because assuming if you are from my place where you have customary land, you have converted it into freehold. So now who will be your landlord to give you a lease? But you want to own it. So we want to see whether there are possibilities of having a long-term lease, but allow us to take this as homework. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, in the meantime, please do seek the dual citizenship option. Because it's that's what I did, you know, it's a gift. Take it as a gift. It was even $400, it's now $200, it's half the money, you know. It's the best of both worlds.
In fact, the dual citizenship was a result of the request by the diaspora community when the president attended the UNAA convention in 2004 in Seattle, Washington. It was put to him about dual citizenship, and when we went back to Uganda, the constitution was amended to address your concern. And that's why I said earlier, if you would have your concerns brought to us in an organized manner, we are able to respond positively, like the issue of dual citizenship was handled. Thank you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Name is Richard Herbert Sakakaweda, son of former Sakakaweda MP and all of those good things. He was actually a member of the Democratic Party and the like. I am very glad to see you gentlemen having organized this forum. It's very important. This is I think my first time I've come here. And there are certain things that came up that were very instrumental. One, we talked about vision. Yesterday when I came in, there was, I think, something to do with the Constitution, and some people had a disagreement, and it turned out not to be very good. That is not a very good reflection. What we want to see is we want to see people that come and have positive, instrumental dialogue, like a lot of you have talked about, because this will bring better people who have better minds to come and engage in situations like this that help all of us as Ugandans. That's one thing, that's an observation. I think that's what we need to be able as Ugandans to be able to have constructive disagreement, yet at the same time be constructive. That's one point. I've also been very happy to hear the way the folks from the different political parties have come up with certain ways in which they can talk about themselves. And we need to be talking about what is good for Ugandans. Point number 2. Number 3, it goes to the immigration. I find it very challenging when we have so many of these requirements of people who want to go through dual citizenship. And that's why it becomes a very taxing process. For example, my father, Honorable Nechita Kaweda, my mother, these were people that worked for the country for a very long time. They're dead. How do I go back in and having to justify, I already have a Ugandan passport, I'm an American passport, I'm with an American passport also. How do I go back within the system and then having to justify where my father and mother was born? These are people that contributed tremendously to the country. Point of information and something that you can take off the table is, someone has a Ugandan passport, there is no need to regurgitate most of that information. Where do your parents come from? Where were they born? Where were they? It is something that would really help to speed up and make the process a little bit more efficient in terms of the folks that are trying to get dual citizenship. Like a lot of people who are in the diaspora. For me to go back in and having to say, Shaka Gaweda was born in, forget it. People. So that's the point of information that you could take. As if someone has a Ugandan passport, take that information that you already have for that current passport, import it, and just ask the relevant things like, are you not crazy? It's not what I said. You're not a crazy guy, you're not killing people in the US, you're not shooting people, you have a good code of conduct. Let's just get those requirements refined so that we get the most important things. Get a letter from the Interpol, get your medical physicality to ensure you're not crazy, and let's move on. You get your dual citizenship, and let's move on with the process. The third point really has to go with when Ugandans want to go. Let's talk about how we could miss out on information technology. Africans, Semiconductors, I'm in semiconductor industry. Being chemical engineer, I was one of the first chemical engineers in Uganda, and I was going to come back to work for the petroleum, but I'm in semiconductor. How do Africans get ourselves into the next information stage? Training our own youngsters so that they can have jobs, so that they can participate in this next revolution of technology. I would like, the next time I come to Uganda, I would like to come and see a friend of my good late father, Honorable Nankabi. I know you remember my dad very well. I would like to come and we talk about things like electrification of transport. Uganda has now electric buses. I would like to come, e-mobility. I would like to come and look at what is the chemistry that those guys are using that I can use to help us move ourselves into the next form of technology. With Ugandans doing that. So those are the sort of things we really need to be talking about in most of these forums. Last of all is the issue of ownership of land. Big topic, very big topic for Ugandans in the diaspora. The thing that the government may not be aware of that I wish to bring forth is we have relatives in Uganda that don't like us, relatives who have been supporting them. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but that's a big problem. It's a big problem. So we need to address that even within the court system. When these relatives come in that we've supported and they create chaos, there has to be a sort of way that the court has to balance that when they're making their decisions. The last point is going to deal with the ability for us to be able to make investments in Uganda for the diaspora. A lot of people in the diaspora, we're going to come back home eventually. I never thought that I would ever think of coming back to Uganda, but I'm thinking of coming back to Uganda because I want to see the country move forward. We would, within the diaspora desks that you all are creating, I would like to know, or we would like to know, the one that's going to address legal issues, because there's a lot of legal issues for the diaspora that can be channeled within an organized manner, so that when I go to Uganda and I've got a court case to address to, I know that the judge is going to know that this is something that has come up as an issue of urgency. So let's have the desk, let's have it discussed out to all the Ugandans to know what issues are we going to talk about. How do we channel our issues through the diaspora desk in Washington, D.C.? Who do we contact and what's being done from the side of, on the Ugandan side? Some gentlemen talk about efficiency of these desks. We would like to know about that efficiency so that we can channel these things. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ambassador Muhindo. Talk of a multiplicity of diaspora desks. I run the Department of Diaspora at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I may not have time to give out the points that I wanted to give because of time, but I wanted to talk about, to react a little bit about what has been talked here and answer a few questions. First of all, Mr. Moderator, we are talking of reconciliation, we are talking of understanding, but the problem of Uganda, which is also now affecting the diaspora, is the issue of patriotism. You are not going to talk to anybody about reconciliation, about transition, when you don't have your country at heart. You have lived in the US here for a long time. I lived in Canada for 13 years. You see how these people take their country. When you live here, the best thing you can take away is to learn how these people live. Americans, Canadians love their country first and foremost. But for us, we are concentrating, actually, that's why there is a conflicting definition of transition. What is transition? Does transition mean from Muhindo to somebody else? Is that what we mean by transition? What is the actual definition? Because in Uganda, it's like so and so must go. When that person goes, then we feel there is a transition. But that's not the answer. We are mixing social constructs and we do not understand statecraft. This is the problem. Look at our diaspora. The other day, I was attending a meeting in Nairobi, And IOM was telling us that Uganda has a very big diaspora community, but it is the most fragmented. And I've seen that very much. I was in Canada when this UNAA was started by Dr. Munini and the others, right? Now, how many conventions do I attend? In May, I was in New York here attending the Badisu convention. There is Wanyakige's convention. There is Masoka convention. I come from Kasese, the only convention we don't have is Bakonjo convention. You understand? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Is because of our unpatriotic tendencies. We are retreating back to our tribes. We are retreating back to our regions, and this is what we are trying to mix with transition. So transition from who? Museveni to who? So that is a very big problem. And I would like us to emulate what my colleague here said about Kenya. The Kenyans right now have got Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, 2 permanent secretaries, 2 separate budgets, and they are moving very seriously up. The Tanzanians the other day, who started the diaspora recently, last financial year alone, they made $1.6 billion from the diaspora. For us, we are still in the process of dividing ourselves along tribes, along this. So I think the problem is we need to first of all love this country. We need to secondly be here as Ugandans who love their country. And from there, the other things may work out themselves. Also the politicians, the same thing. Do you love your country? Because you are our leaders. Have you shown us any example, practical example to show that, you see, we are patriotic? Mao is not coming in government to unseat Museveni. He is coming to government transition to make sure that he's doing it for the country, not for the authorities, not for the Wagondas. So this is the problem. When some people are here, others cannot be in because of their petty difference. Why? Because they don't understand patriotism. If we first started by being Ugandans, we would be here even in big numbers. We would not be fragmenting ourselves. The diaspora would be a formidable force, a formidable contributor to Uganda's economic transformation. But we can't do this when we are divided. Right? Now, coming to the issue of skills, we are trying to carry out an exercise called diaspora mapping. We are talking about the diaspora, voting and all this stuff. But we cannot have these people vote when we don't know where they are, who they are, and what they do. Diaspora mapping has got 3 components. We've got to first of all identify the geographical location of these people. We've got to know who they are. We've got to know the transferable skills. So what my brother was talking about here, skilling Ugandans, we are now talking of a situation where we identify skilled Ugandans, and we try to identify institutions in Uganda or areas in Uganda where they can fit. And if you come, for example, for vacation, and you can give us 2 weeks or 3 weeks of your time, we can link you up with an institution in Uganda where you can offer expertise. But to carry out this exercise, we must know where you are, we must know what qualifications you have, which now we call transferable skills. So it's really not something that we are going to do when we don't know exactly where you are. So Since I don't have enough time, I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. I take the honor to ask a question. It's not really, it's like a statement about immigration. I'm a student, PhD student in Information Systems Technology, Claremont Graduate University. So mine is about F1 visa. As students from Uganda, we are given only 1 year. And for example, if I'm a PhD student, I'm required to go for different conferences in different countries or whatever it could be. Like I was supposed to attend a conference in Mexico. I can't do that because I came last year and my visa is already off because they give us 1 year. My request is if you could help us and you give us the number of years corresponding to the number of years we are supposed to be in school, that would be very helpful because we have to go back to Uganda to renew our visa, like a student's visa, to continue like moving outside the country. Thank you so much. Another thing is about maybe identifying talent. It's very important to help identify talent and give them opportunities, not transfer, like giving to people you are related with. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm George Kakairi. I'm a business and information systems consultant based in California. I believe we have interacted with a few of you already in this convention. I've been aching to share because a lot of the things that we're talking about here, we've spoken about them before. I tend to consult for organizations on strategy, and one of the gaping holes for Uganda, both local and diaspora, is the absence of strategic leadership. We have a lot of firefights. We put out small fires, but we don't see far enough. For instance, as UNAA, I'm a member of UNAA, many of you are, we are here and we have many great civil servants come and visit us every year. They are engaging conversations, but we hardly have a track record of what is discussed in these places being recorded, and us having meaningful follow-up to see whether we've made progress from our last conversation to this conversation. For those of you who have been here many times, we have talked about the same things over and over and over. Mr. Yaruhanga just shared that the president got a message in Seattle in 2004, and that's when he went back and initiated that move to get dual citizenship in place. And that was a direct appeal to the president, which we should have learned by now, 2023. How many years it is? 20 years, right? That we have needs that need to go back to both the executive and the legislature. And we should have a framework through which we record things and send them. And so I want to put this on the table and put everybody that is in any meaningful position in the Ugandan government that is here. I know that many of you have very important local work to do. How can you help us get legislative representation as the diaspora for Uganda? As in, we need representation in parliament that is dedicated to the diaspora, not just the ability to get an ID to flash around, but we need proper representation. This will now help us map what Mr. Yaruhanga called getting ourselves a way to channel our issues through a certain point or contact person at the embassy or within UNAA. UNAA is only a North American organization. The diaspora is huge. Now, back to the strategic conversation. So, what do we need to get proper legislators representing the diaspora in the Parliament of Uganda? We are a formidable economic contributor. We have been contributing well over $1 billion of non-refundable contributions to the economy of Uganda every year. I will repeat, it is non-refundable. $1 billion from the diaspora is better than a $10 billion loan from China, because that one we have to pay it back and it is collateralized. Ours is a gift. So, that's spoken. That's spoken. So we have already talked about the need for legislation, representation. The other thing that I would want to share with you, for us to take home is really, really simple. We have a framework that we have discussed before from San Francisco last year, that the diaspora contains professional capability that we are not taking advantage of. We have a strategy that can help us leverage all of the minds and the skills in this room and others to help our country get better back home. That strategy is tied to what Honorable Nakaburo spoke about, which is the Secretariat. In 2013, a policy was drafted for the Uganda diaspora as a Uganda diaspora strategic policy. I don't think I'm saying that right, but there's a policy that was drafted. Other countries got sponsorship to draft their own policies. Kenya being one of them. We have a very similar policy that was drafted around the same time. Uganda's policy is still a draft. The Kenyan policy has been implemented. And so their remittances overtook ours. At that time, we remitted 700, they remitted 667 $1 million a year. Today they are remitting $3.5 to $4 billion a year. We are still at about $1 billion. They are 4x our remittances, almost 3 to 4x our remittances, and yet we were 100 million above what they were 10 years ago. So the fragmented implementation of what we want is what is killing us. Diaspora desks everywhere in Uganda, but hardly any here. The US has 50 states, we have Ugandans everywhere. Surely the embassy will be overwhelmed if they were to even take on our issues. I don't think the embassy is designed to ingest that type of thing. They have their mission. So I would appeal, therefore, as a final appeal, that instead of having, or along with the local secretariat, I think let's be very intentional. We need something and a different operation that operates within the diaspora, because all those desks have existed for a long time and we've hardly ever seen any of their representatives effectively working here, except waiting for UNAA to happen, then they come. So we need to be a bit more intentional. We have issues like education, agriculture, finance, we have employment, we have opportunities here, we have contracts that can be taken advantage of. The efforts we are making are too small for the opportunity we have in the diaspora. We can well send you $20 billion of free money if it is intentional.
Thank you.
God bless you.
I'm going to have the panelists respond to that. The political forum is the hardest end, so we must end it. So I'm going to request the panelists to respond to these questions and we carry on. There are other functions that are going to happen and we have to prepare for that. Please, would you respond to the questions that we just heard and we move forward?
Ladies first, and in the interest of time, allow me to be as blunt as diplomatically possible. You have just told on yourself, fragmentation. The embassy does not work in isolation. We're with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we work with all these MDAs. However, how do we work? Where do we find you? Where are you? When COVID happened, it was a struggle to get information to people. You don't register. Why? We don't know. Maybe there's a mistrust. But I'd like to guarantee you that our responsibility and our mandate is to interact with you, to be of assistance to you. We've helped people when they've gone to jail, when they needed. We're here to help you. But we cannot do that. Even this mapping, before IOM comes and maps for us, there's security issues. Why should other people be mapping for us? I've spoken to my colleagues, our neighbors. When IOM invited us in the spring, there are people who lived in camps that IOM brought here in East Africa. But if you look at their communities, they even have a member of Congress. What about us? If you go to Minnesota, the community, the Somali community, you know what they were saying? You know what they were talking about? They were talking about investing in Uganda. That's what they were asking us. How do we invest in Uganda? They wanted to have a forum, a business forum, on how they can invest in Uganda. So the question is, where are you? How can we help people we can't find? And my appeal is, let's work together. We're not here to get you. They appointed me the ambassador. They didn't send me to come here and get secret information and get you at the airport, you know, all these conspiracies. We're so wrapped up in conspiracies. No, I mean, no, that's not the embassy's responsibility. The other day when there was Ebola, they closed down all the airports to Ugandans other than 5. Even the Boston one. I did not hear a single complaint from anyone in writing. I did not go to the State Department and say, I want to argue, you know my people. No, I must go there at least with some sort of 100 complaints, even 10 complaints. But we're quiet. So please, shout, we're here. Make noise. In America, you know, in America, you've got to make noise. You have got to shout, kick, scream, protest. Forget about the protest, but you know, we're committed. Huh? Let's start a new chapter. Let's reset this button. And I know that there are many other Ugandans who are not here. My question is, where are they? Because these things are resource envelope. We cannot go to Banyachigezi, we don't have those resources to be up and, you know, we'd rather have 1 week, maybe even 1 whole week, where each day we have and we congregate. You guys are smart, you're smart about these things. So let's be smart about how we do things. Thank you.
Thank you. A gentleman here, the son of the late Honorable Gawera, raised pertinent issues about the questionnaire of obtaining the passport and so forth, including prostitution. Yes, when you're talking, I think what Mao here was saying, yeah, we need to discuss this. It's a good point, but also I've talked from people from immigration. You know, Uganda being a seat of peace within the region. When you talk to people in immigration, there are many non-Ugandans who want to become Ugandans for different reasons. There are those of security concern. One want to get a Ugandan passport and one commit crimes. So others, because where they are, the security, they feel secure if they were Ugandans. So yes, you have a point, we can discuss it, but we have also that background. Because if there was not that bit of strictness, today you have so many people owning Ugandan IDs, national IDs, when they are really not Ugandans. Congolese, Rwandese, Burundians, and so forth. So when they ask them, like if I say Akabio, for Uganda, somebody will say, what is that? When they say, your clan, I can't claim to Ghana actually, I must know what many clan system in Acholi. And then sometimes they interview you. They get somebody from Acholi to interview you in immigration. Then they realize this one is lying. So yes and no. Take it from that point of view. Yes, you have good points for you who is genuine, but then there are those who are not genuine. So how do we strike a balance? Because there are many people who want, Nigerians have been trying to get Ugandan passports for their other issues. Some want to commit crime, some want to ABCD. So bear with us. Yes, you have good points, but we have Uganda being a sea of peace in the region. We must still maintain those questions in the questionnaire for that reason. Then he has asked about the visa. You see, when you are coming to Uganda, sorry, to America to study or to visit, the visa is given to you by the American embassy or through the State Department through the American embassy in Kampala. So for the UK, I know that for the fact that they give you a visa according to the duration of the course. For the US, you are saying they give you for 1 year. So yes, we can raise it with the embassy back home in Kampala, or if our mission here can raise it with the department. But basically, really, the issue or the power of giving the passport and the visa is with the American government, not Ugandan government. Can only negotiate. The last point I wanted to comment on about Kakai issues for leadership. I had raised this earlier, that yes, Uganda is concerned, the government is concerned about handling issues to do with people in the diaspora. But we wish we could get them through an organized manner. For instance, you had your AGM yesterday. What are those issues in the AGM which you think government should follow up? Which then if they come to us, they will be followed up. All this just talking about the yearning for that. So let the organization start with you. Yes. So let the organization start with you in Yola. When you meet, we say these issues need to go to government of Uganda. Through the embassy here, when Mr. Muhinda has told you he's handling the diaspora desk in Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But what he has got officially from different groups, other than what he picks for maybe a meeting like this and so forth. So if you can be organized through your leaderships, the government of Uganda is ready to respond yesterday. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that for the record, for the last year's convention, we put together a list of everything that was discussed at this forum. We handed them over. We are just volunteers that do this forum, and we hand everything over to the UNAA leadership. The UNAA leadership was supposed to go through the embassy to channel these points that were raised to be taken to Kampala. I don't know whether they did that, but our part was done.
Let me start by sharing my email address so that those who want to contact me directly can do so. I respond to my emails personally. It's MP Mao, MP as a Member of Parliament, Mike Papa, MP Mao at yahoo.com. You know that Yahoo address is permanent. The nmao at mojca.go.ug is you never know. Though at least I'm sure I will be there till the end of this term. So there's a question here. I think I will have to share this with the ambassador because you are the one who is the president of Uganda here in the United States. We are asked to invest back home, and most of our investment is in apartments for rent, but the law in Uganda doesn't protect the landlord and protects the tenants. You find a tenant not paying for 6 months and you can't kick him or her out. And at the end of the day, the tenant runs away with all that money. So where should the landlord go to recover the money, since it is not protected by the law? The one who brought that law is here. He's going to deal with it, but the ambassador can give you additional assurances.
In the interest of time, I think you handle this.
I just have to underscore a few things. We admire you people who are out here. Sometimes, of course, when we come here, our views of you are challenged. And now, assuming a meteorite fell on Uganda, you will have to start Uganda afresh from the diaspora. So we have very high expectations of you. If a nuclear bomb fell in Uganda and all of us perished, you are the nursery babies to start the Uganda afresh. You'll have to go back and populate it afresh. So on that account, you are very important. Yesterday I said a tree must not fight against its roots. You are the tree, however big and luxuriant you may be, but your roots are really Uganda. So it is important for you to stay connected. Please don't disconnect. Now, it's bad enough to disconnect from Uganda. It's now bad enough to disconnect from yourselves. Many of you are highly influential. You can visit senators, you can visit even cabinet secretaries, you can visit governors. I know some of you here who play golf with powerful rich people, including Bill Gates. We know how influential you are. So I repeat, we don't put you in the same frame with those who keep offending us. So don't get us wrong when we complain about some of those people. Those ones are there. The Baganda say, so a few people, I told you about Joseph Kony, made all of us to be seen as if we are rebels, whereas we were not. So we really, really want you to leave this room convinced that we regard you very, very highly. People like Nankabila, she has sat in these meetings from day one, attending each and every one of them. Yesterday I went into her room. She has carried Kabalagala, she has carried what, she has carried... You know, all this is because she wants you people to keep remembering home. She could have brought for you the energy policy and so on, how much deposits of minerals we have, but she really, because it is that patriotism is a very emotional attachment. You know, the way you are attached to your mother. She may not even give you anything, but let anybody insult her. Even if you are not a giant, you're like me, you definitely will start a fight. It may end badly, but it must go on record that you took a stand. So, that we must sort of eliminate the prejudice the diaspora has about Uganda. So in our case now, PR shouldn't mean public relations ambassador. It should now mean prejudice reduction. And I'm glad you spoke very frankly. You know, when you have a meeting like this, they say, oh, there is nobody, oh, he's a mole, probably he's carrying some poison to kill a few people here. You know, I know these talks, so why don't we talk about them? Do you really think that the government of Uganda can hold a seminar on how to eliminate people? We used to have people in the Acholi diaspora, and some of them would think that when they arrive in the airport, everybody will know who they are. And I say, by the way, nobody even knows you. And they're not even bothered about your your blog. So some of them have started coming back, and when they come back, they realize that actually there is, but there are also those who thrive on that. Even inside the government, and Moses may take note of this, there are also people, so-called operatives, who give an impression of some big threat in the diaspora against the government. And they may have their own interests also. They want operational funds and so on. No, but Moses was in school with me at the university, but is more of an insider. I'm an insider outsider. Yeah. So also, I told you that somebody told the president that I was being sponsored by Bashir and El Turabi. People had never met. So even there are those who create some fiction that there is a plot in the diaspora, so we need to deal with it. It is the scarecrow tactics. So, and as a result, government also has prejudice. So what we can do is to reduce the prejudice of government, and also we work hard to reduce the prejudice here. And talking around thinking somebody is plotting and so on. But overall, every country must face its own demons. Uganda is still a young country, by the way. Uganda is still a work in progress. If even America can have somebody go and urinate on the speaker's desk, the Proud Boys. So let us keep this candle in the wind called Uganda. It is our duty. As I say, you can have a plan B, but you don't have a country B. This is the only country you have. Lastly, is the words we use. I am now 56 years old. Yes, I'm 56 years old. From the very beginning, I've always believed that it is important to reach out. So when President Museveni extended a hand to me, I could not give him this. I also extended and shook his hand. And these ministers I found there have also made me at least feel welcome. So that is what happened. When I was 23 years old, I had led a strike in Makerere. Henry is here, Moses is here, and probably some of you are here. The police came and shot dead 2 students. And Jacob Olanya, the late speaker, was beaten up very badly. They had to remove his spleen. He lived on antibiotics his entire life, because it is the spleen which deals with the infections, I understand. Yeah, we called it Black Monday. And ironically, it was on International Human Rights Day. That was 10th December. But the university was closed, virtually no lectures. I went and picked up the phone and just called the general line of State House. And somebody picked the phone and said, "Who is this? Robert Mao. Who are you?" "President of Makerere Student Guild." "What do you want?" "I want to talk to the president." And then the voice there said, "Why?" I said, "He's the chancellor of the university. We have some problems we want to deal with. We want to explain ourselves to him." So he said, "Yeah, we shall call you back through the vice chancellor." We demanded a meeting. We got our meeting, and we were taken to State House in Entebbe, and we explained our case. At that time, we were fighting against the structural adjustment program, which was about reducing spending in higher education and taking the money to primary and secondary. And we thought that we should not do it as a trade-off. They are all important. Of course, it came with social spending. Of late, the president has started also criticizing the structural adjustment program because COVID showed us that the state cannot withdraw completely from economic issues. So I didn't start yesterday the culture of reaching out. Some people think I started in 2022 when I was appointed a minister. That is who I am. So the lady at the other end was at that time called Allen Kakuyu, now she's called Allen Kajina, the boss of the Uganda National Roads Authority. And reaching out does not hurt. Imagine if Dr. Bote and Kabaka Mutesa had found some environment which is not toxic, to talk, two of them. I think the history of Uganda would have been different. Whatever people say about General Tito Okello, I think the best thing he did was to give those peace talks a chance. Yeah. There are those who are very annoyed with him. And they say, you should stand up and fight. But he said, so what? We bombed Kampala to shreds. He had the ability. He had all those guns in Kololo. He could have bombed Kampala. But eventually, you must look at the bigger picture. So I disagree that we have enough patriots, but they are silent. Those who, the loud ones are the ones who are not patriotic. The silent ones are the patriots. So patriots make some noise, as they say. And as we speak, when you change your words, you'll get back also good words. There was a little boy who used to go grazing cattle and he would yell obscenities, and of course the echoes will bring back the obscenities. He would shout very obscene things. And so he went to his mother and told the mother, Mom, there's a very naughty little boy behind that hill who really keeps abusing you and shouts obscenities. The mother knew what had happened. He said, son, tomorrow go and say the following. I love you, come and visit me, I want to be your friend. So he went and shouted the same things, and the same things came back. And he went back and said, Mom, there has been a revolution. This boy is saying he wants to come and visit me, he wants to be my friend. So I think the more the numbers of people who are shouting positive things, saying, let's work with the government. I have been attacked for saying President Museveni is like the mathematical pi for the transition. Because he's the one there, and you can't have a transition without the one who is there. Read Mandela's book, The Long Walk to Freedom. You'll see how he was misunderstood by his own ANC. They called him a sellout, but he put, in fact he was called a mole. Now the most radical party at that time was called Pan-Africanist Congress. Their mantra was one settler, one bullet. And of course it was lovely. When you say one settler, one bullet, you look very authentic and you are the most angry, nationalistic African who want the whites to be driven back to the Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. But eventually, Pan-Africanist Congress doesn't even have a single MP as I talk now. So let us, the genuine patriots, just stand firm. There is a cycle. The cycle of the unpatriotic noisemakers, their cycle will run out. And that is what I want to leave you with. We are going to stay tuned. And next year I promise to come back and with a report of what we have achieved.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman Mao. The issue of landlord-tenant. There were two things, let me address them. And we need a balance. You've all been in Kampala, and you know how people may not be very genuine, both the landlords and the tenants. It is only in Uganda where you have a landlord, let's say in these arcades, commercial buildings, collect 2 million shillings from a tenant and give them a receipt of 50,000 shillings. And the government knows this. Even the taxman knows this, and they don't do anything. Now, our people ran to us and said, listen, honorable, the other day this guy charges me these funds, I'm a small startup. I run out of ideas, and when they get someone paying higher, they come and say, leave this shop. They collect your things and throw them out and put a padlock. Why? Because during campaigns, they are the best contributors to the government, to the ruling party. And we say we want candid talk, straight talk. So where does this person run to? They were only left with avenues to run to court. Now, the laws that we had could not suffice at the moment. Why do we make amendments in laws? It is as a result of the demand, of the needs, to address the needs of the people at that moment. But also preserve, make a preservation to attract investments for the future. Now, we came up with the Landlord Tenants Act. We interacted with everyone. It is something that I was vouching for the other day, but the government presented the proposal. Now, the most important thing that governs this is the free forces of one, demand and supply, but also the free will to enter into an agreement. So if you're a landlord, you're here, you have a tenant. That is why even if you enter a hotel here, you sign a document after signing. Have you ever read the terms and conditions of what you're signing? So at least make that informal agreement, even if it's handwritten, that on every 29th you deposit these funds on my account. Failure of which, ABCD. But what happens in Uganda, you have apartments, you have your sister or relative as your agent. 90, bunganiza sente zanga. They negotiate a different fare. They are also not genuine, like Mr. Gawera here said. They actually don't want you back. So, the best thing is, after having all that wealth in the form of apartments, there are two things that can create harmony. One, every tenant that wants to come into your estate must sign an agreement. If they don't want, don't come in. Two, if they sign the agreement, you can use technology to demystify all those fears. One, how do you put a footprint to show that someone has paid on time as evidence for you to present in tribunals or in the courts of law? We had a brilliant talk yesterday with a gentleman called Brian Kayongo. He has included a platform where you can go, put in your tenants vouch for you. You don't know the owner of Hilton. You go through booking.com and book Hilton here and come in and even pay. They only remind you when you're exiting, please, your days are complete, get out. None of us has ever interacted with the owner of Hilton or any other hotel. Therefore, the same should be done for these rentals. Do not even interact. Do it remotely, because that's what we had in the Tech Forum. Someone has made an amazing innovation to also deal with valuation. Most of you have leased. You tell me to direct Takalianga or Muganda and help me sell this land, I give you a different value. But let's have a standard valuation. Chivoga, 2 miles. Go into that application. It will tell you the price here is relatively between this. Plus or minus 10%, you get an average and gross reference. Now, to management of estates, have this. Have the videos. Interact with your tenant directly. Because landlords also do not take charge of the repairs. Then the landlord takes charge of the repairs. Maybe it's a plumbing problem. Someone tries to reach out to you. There is a time difference. Others say, so, how do we mitigate that? Someone has paid you. You're not taking charge of the repairs. You're not doing anything to see that you're maintaining the property, but you want rent. So where is the balance between the landlord and the tenant? That is a conversation for another time. It is huge, it is long, but we can talk about the discrepancies. Illegal evictions. Because what happened is we have greedy people that do not honor verbal agreements. We've seen it downtown. Someone starts a shop. They tell them, since you're the first tenant, you will pay 500,000. There is more demand because the shop is on a good location. There is high sales. People, landlords become greedy and say, next month pay 5 million. Because an Indian has come with much more capital. If you can't pay 5 million, get out. Now, look at me as your leader. Amongst my voters are tenants and landlords. I'm not saying that I went for the majority, but where is the balance? Who is more oppressed? It is this one without a bargaining position, the tenant. That's why the same law that you have in Canada, without amendments, actually it was one amendment, is the same law we have in Uganda. But the only problem that is being manifested, people do not want to enter into agreements. And you know the reason? Tax. The reason is every single Ugandan would like to do everything possible to evade tax. And the rental income tax is the problem. And that is why my view on rental income was that we should keep it as low as possible so that people write agreements. 2%, 3%, or it should follow the rate of inflation. And so is the increase. Thank you very much for the issue of technology. Mr. Gawera, who were there in the tech forum, you missed out yesterday. We had great innovations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I will just want to say a few things. First, we, as a region, we must appreciate that our country is putting a lot of time in terms of building the East African community. But here are other members that are already running so faster than what Uganda is doing. I know that, and I've told you, Kenya is run so faster. But when you want to see the interest of what I do, you also see from in terms of what time and budget allocation do I have. It is important that we track what the East Africans in this region are doing. It is important that we do a survey to understand what great potential that you have, that you're doing from within the region. That, like I said, maybe we do even have a trust fund, so that our countries don't have to run to money lenders and loan sharks, but we do a lot in terms of doing investment at home if we have the understanding of what exactly we do. But like the minister is saying, I think some of the things require a bit of amendment. For now, you cannot open a bank account if you don't have a national ID. How are you going to deal with people that are in the diaspora that are doing a lot of contribution? We must maybe review and have a waiver for people that are within properly known the diaspora, and so that they can open an account, they can transact, and they can send money home, they can open maybe company accounts within the line of law. So, Mr. Minister, I think that's a take home for me as a person that is in terms of policy and legislation. It is important that when you're doing a law, it's not one size fits all. You must understand that all of us are in different dynamics. The same to opening or buying a line. You cannot buy an Airtel line or MTN line if you don't have a national ID for now. So, you know what the companies have done where we come from is that they have relaxed. They can either charge you little money so that you now remain on an American or Turkish or whatever line. So we are losing taxes during the 6 months or the 1 month that our people are at home, because they continue using the lines from where they come from because they cannot buy a local line at home. So in terms of tapping whatever potential of taxation or contribution in line of whatever airtime and data you're buying, because of the restriction that we have, we continue losing the resource which we'll be tapping into from. So for me, I think it is very important that we understand the dynamics under that we operate in, for us to remove the blockages that avoid us or that make us not tap from the potentiality of our people that we have. Why would we hire a consultant from China to come and do and teach us about cotton? You know, when we have special people within that come from, we got a consultant in one of the countries. He came to Burundi and he wanted to understand how they grow cotton. And when he reached the cotton farm, he was asking, what is that? Actually, the people from that area were the ones telling him that is cotton. So I think for me it's important that we understand the potential that we have within our region, and it will help us to build one block of one people and one destiny. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Moderator, I just wanted to make one announcement. From what Honorable Ma was saying, we need to detoxicate and make sure that people don't fear to go home and all this stuff. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is organizing a Come Home annual conference for all people in the diaspora. So that means that every end of year, we are going to invite all the diaspora to come to Kampala, especially when you people are coming in for your vacation. We are going to organize, we accommodate you for at least 1 week. We deliberate. We are also trying to introduce the PDM to the diaspora, parish development model. And I will explain that at another time. So what we want you to do is every end of year, you come, we deliberate, we take you up country, we have got our buses, take you up country for 2-3 days, you come back, we get a feedback, and we shall be doing that every year so that people can stop this intoxication and fear of going back home.
Mr. Kakaile, we don't need a member of parliament or a representative to this. All we need is proper channels to have a policy in terms of how proper things are done, so that anybody who sits in will automatically respond to the issues of the diaspora without necessarily having a member of parliament or councillor for specification.
Thank you, madam. So I want one comment from our family moment here, and then we conclude. We must conclude.
Thank you so much, all political leaders and all protocol observed. My biggest concern since Ndagamuntu came in on national ID and passport, when it was first introduced, we the military personnel are the people who are in so much jeopardy. So, Minister of Constitutional Affairs, I had you taking down notes for amendments or recommendations, please. I would love you to look into the law where you would help us who are in the military. We cannot own the government because of the top secret clearances that we have here as federal employees. However, before we were military, we had our land, we had our property back home. So, when you put NIN numbers, when you put national IDs for us to go home and acquire, the law does not allow us. The waiver is what we would request. I have requested it before the former ambassador. I'm going to request it with Madam Ambassador now, and request it with you, Honorable Minister of Constitutional Affairs, so that we, the military, have the exception to that general rule, so that our property, we cannot just allocate it to our relatives, but we could still have our property because we came into the military or in the federal government when we already own property. And we cannot do so because that affects our secret clearance and that moves us out of the job if we get Ndagamuntu on national ID. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Panelists, did you want to respond to that? Those are some of the issues that...
She's proposing an exception in the law. Laws are slow anywhere in the world. So, we want to find out whether there can be an alternative document. I have seen in Honorable Nakabira, please, you can advise me. Didn't we waive some things for the elderly? What did we waive for the elderly? I think we were trying to provide for some support to the elderly, and I think Cabinet took a decision that they may be exempted from providing national ID numbers. So that means it is possible as a special consideration. So allow me to take that also as homework, and we shall give you back the results.
Hello. I'm thankful for the Lukia Kalibal. I'm thankful for the opportunity that has been given to me today. Everything that has been said here is right. We need a link to go back home. And there's something, when I walked in, I was watching live, they did mention that they wanted to find a way to implement ways where we can link and be able to help the people in Uganda. I'm in the medical field. And we've talked about, Honorable Mserko was talking about, the thing is sustainability. We do a lot of telehealth. It's not even like telehealth. We are able to help people. I specialize in stroke rehabilitation. But you see, if you talk even on the phone or we use the cameras, we see more returns to our people in Uganda. Even that's done for free. And if they were talking about coming and providing those services like on the holiday, what you want is possible, but then the people here work on policies that give them back. Okay, if I do come and invest 2 weeks in Uganda treating people for strokes, then what are you giving me? Maybe I need a break when I'm bringing in my car to be able to provide those services. You know, it's like Mbangu way, which is done. We really want to help, and that is a very good model. How to implement it? Everyone wants to do it through UNAA. It is a good platform. UNAA is a good platform. But I do believe this world is full of competition. You want to implement ideas. Give us an opportunity. These are your problems in Uganda. Does anybody have the ideas? Let's put through the ideas. Before I left Uganda, I did project planning and management. You give us the data. This is where the problem is. We come in and say, oh, I can do this for this region. Then you look at what is suitable at that time for the people, the population. So we can want all we want, but implementation is key and the timing is right. Because hearing many people talking about the same thing, we are thinking we want to do. We want to do this for our people, but ask us how we implement it. The expertise, sustainability you want, but you need the skills for the sustainability. So that will go to the embassy. UNAA is a good platform. We come here, but we want something that is neutral, because now it's kind of pulling politically. And this is not about us here. We want to help the people back home. So come up with things, the needs that the Ugandans need. How do we implement? Do you have any proposals? Then you put out an email. Anybody with a proposal, let's compete for the best proposal. That's how we do development. Then we come in and we implement. If I put out a proposal, I know the implementation with the data that has been provided to me. So that can be done. But let's go through the end. I would like the embassy, if it were me, to do it, because right now we're in neutral. Then the competitions will come to UNAA as you put them out there. But right now, if you have a need, we don't need to wait for the next year to implement. Put out an email, anybody who can help, your expertise, we start from there and then we build. Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you, panelists. I'll be very brief. I'm Amos Asimwe. I live here in Dallas, Texas. One is to engage the diaspora. You have many desks, State House, whatever. Now, the world has become a global village. Is there any way a website can be made? Because that's where most organizations do their work. And you put where to contact you and respond. Because I thank you, Honorable Norbert Mao, you're giving your personal email. You're going to be very overwhelmed. So to streamline, to be kind of strategic, can there be a diaspora website and a specific team responds to our needs? And we know, like every month or every 3 months, the government in Uganda is engaging with us, if either virtual meetings and all that kind of thing. It's going to link not only UNA, but these many Banyachikezi, UK, Canada, everywhere. The website is going to bring everybody in the diaspora, and you're going to get your millions that somebody talked about in good kind, no tax, not refundable. If we are all organized, all diasporas across the whole world. That's one. Two, regional comparison. Kenya has its diaspora, Tanzania, Rwanda, everybody. Now, we had an issue of dual citizenship, and we thank you that we made, we shouted like the ambassador said, and the fee was reduced. But do you know what was happening to our neighbors? Rwanda was about $50 or $100. Kenya was around the same. Uganda was 400. And Rwanda said, why Uganda? Others are cheap. Taxes, we bring things in Uganda. Rwanda, you go with a car that is a new hybrid, no taxes. You go to Rwanda and are not continue with other countries. You bring a car of a certain value, high-end car. They are trying to stay out with cheap stuff that comes to the country, quality. If you bring a car that much, tax-free. Uganda, can you compare what's happening with these other neighboring countries in taxes on how they handle diaspora people? Last is to thank. I want to thank when you people in government come and you engage with us in the diaspora, and we tell you our issues. Some are answered, some are you struggle. I want to thank Honorable Nankavirwa here. She is an A-class minister. You're gonna call her, she's gonna pick your phone. Honestly, and you see, feedback is very important. You call her, she's gonna pick the phone even at night. Sometimes I'm scared. And you're gonna get, when you go to her office, she's gonna direct you the right direction. And this is not personal, this is about the country. Okay? Me, I don't want to go into details now, but I know the developments that are gonna come as a result of her service. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Ruth. You're an excellent example. We're definitely going to follow in your footsteps. To answer your question, the services that you want to provide, the health services you want to provide, again, it's about coming together on a platform. There is a team from Atlanta. He's an African American, not Ugandan. In 2 weeks, they'll do their 4th trip to Uganda. There's no, this is what we want, so this is what we get. He simply puts a group of 10 people, they take the drugs and they do the diagnostics, and they go to Kalangala. So sometimes it's difficult when it's like, this is what we want to do, but in exchange, this is what we want to get. So when you're giving, give and let go. And in the process, you're going to find other people who are also giving, and you'll get back. Because it becomes difficult for us to say, if this person is giving, what are their expectations? So that's one thing. Another thing, we want to leverage digital diplomacy. So we're putting you to a task. Websites are good, but how about developing an app? Because you have talented young people. So how about 1 year from now when we come back, how about launching that app, maybe even before? So let's do it. Let's put a committee together and let's do it. And also let's make sure that we do it not just with the people at UNAA. Let's do it with the other Ugandans. Let's break this thing and drive it and just do this thing. Because if we say, when other people say, you see, you know, so as an embassy, let's just have one conversation. Instead, because even now we contribute a bit, not much, but some people get grants from what government contributes. But you may find that other people are shying away because they're saying it's only going to that organization. So actually, that one, we may have to rethink that and just do maybe like the embassy grant like other embassies do. So that way it's based on meritocracy and not organizations and things like that. Those are my thoughts.
Yes, in line with that is an arrangement that we are making, where first of all, it is going to be need-based. We first look at some of the institutions that we have, and we see whatever is lacking there. If it is a university that needs a professor in a certain field, if it is a hospital that needs an expertise in a certain area, we are going to forward this as adverts. This is what I was talking about, transferable skills. So we are going to pass them through the embassies. Then, if you find that you actually have that expertise, you respond through the embassy, and we have an arrangement with IOM for facilitation. So if you are going to stay there, for example, for 3 weeks, we can accommodate you. We may pay a return ticket and some stipend. So that answers the part of if you give what you get. Let me finish. And then secondly, about the website, we are also meeting the idea of establishing a call center. A call center for diaspora, where you can call in 24 hours, you can call in whatever problem you have, somebody answers. If we can get an instant answer or solution to your problem. By the way, some of the banks, like housing finance, already have diaspora call centers, where if you have a problem that concerns investment or bank issues, you can call in directly and they handle your matter. I don't know whether you people are aware of that. So this is what we have in plan. And I think that's what I can say.
From the embassy's part, this is what we want to do. We really want to move forward with digital diplomacy. Yes, you can have a call center, but because of the time difference, you know, our hours are 9 to 5. Now on the West Coast, by the time you call, we're closed. If there's a mishap, by the time we call Uganda, they're sleeping. So what do? We need to be innovative. There are young people out there. You can have live chats. You can employ them. What will it cost? 50 iPhones to volunteers so that you communicate on WhatsApp? I mean, we've tried it. I gave my number out almost 1 year ago. And every other, like so often, somebody will send a WhatsApp. I may not have the answer, but I forward that WhatsApp to our immigration office. And within at least the next day or 24 hours, I said, if you haven't heard from someone, please let me know. And then I reached out to our Finding Mama because she has a bigger database. And sometimes maybe somebody needs an emergency, something. It's that kind of communication, access. some of these things, by the time you get to the website, maybe it's down, or it may be in, and just because something is written, it does not mean someone will understand it or interpret it and how it's supposed to be. So I think we just need to move forward, to be America, to communicate with you in the way that you understand. Not to do these brochures, not to do all those things. You speak a certain language. So if I'm here talking about lift and you're talking about elevator, I'm talking about an apartment, you're talking about a flat, I'm talking about a car park, you're talking about a parking lot, we are going to be confused and frustrated. And you will stay in your apartment and I'll stay in my flat, it's the same thing, but we're not of the same family. And then we'll be upset and then all this. So let's streamline what we want. Let's be very straightforward. And let that start with communication. So if there are any volunteers there, please, if you know these people who do these nice apps and all these things, we're not looking for anything fancy. Put yourselves together so that we can have a committee on this, we can be guided. I'm not the expert in those things. Even my kids, they have to, those applications, they help me out once in a while. But we're willing to learn because this solution is going to help all of us. Thank you.
Brother, when we are coming up with the law policy within the region at the East African community, we do a survey and there will be listening, there will be validation. So you pick good practices from within, because what we want to do is to come up with a policy that's at a regional level. And once we pass a policy within the regional level, our partner states automatically will have to validate and appreciate, because that policy will be at a regional level, so it will be implemented from across the 7 partner states. So it's important if there are those good practices, then we will have a team. And of course there is a ministerial within those teams that will have to come up with a policy, starting with a policy for now. So that if Rwanda is doing ABCD, then we borrow, for instance, what Kenya is doing. Kenya is moving faster because there was an interest in terms of also, first of all, getting a data. If you have the data, then you will have to understand that these are people that are clinical psychologists. And then we'll also deal and work with for instance, with the embassy to know, and within yourself, at this particular period I will be home. So you can just do an offering maybe from your village sub-county for the 2 days you are at home to offer a bit of that service so that you help him at the time you're home. It's similar to what Federation of Football Association does. There are many people that have been resettled as refugees from Rwanda, from Congo. What do Federation do? They go around tracking those good players. They were not born in Uganda. Their parents were settled as refugees. Now, the team from South Sudan has qualified for the World Cup basket, in terms of basket. But do you think all those players have really been born and within South Sudan? They have identified all those people that were settled as refugees from all across, and now they've brought them back home, and South Sudan, yes, they have qualified. Yeah. So whatever. So I think for me, it is important that we first of all do what we're supposed to do. Get the data, appreciate that these are the people that we have, different specialties and what they do. And at the end of the day, is for us to track the contributions of the East Africans from wherever they are to build a bloc. But we start from Uganda because we are Ugandans and we put a lot of initiatives in building the bloc of the East African community. I think the good practices are important that we borrow from wherever we are. But at the end of the day, start from you, where you are. There are many Ugandans that you know that are not here. Do you speak to them in terms of linking them to where we want to go? And database is important. It's from there that we pick from where we want to go.
Thank you. Mine are few and they are very. Thank you. Mine a few, and some of them are targeted. Honorable Mao, thank you very much for all your efforts and for spearheading the rule of law in Uganda. What's the time frame for this? Because this call it agreement or understanding that you signed. Yeah. You've been there 1 year, but to me it's been 2 years since they offered you. You started thinking about what you can actually offer on the transition. So, what's the time frame? Yeah. I was going to call you Honorable Moses Biaruhanga. Dr. Biaruhanga, you've been in the President's office for 30 years. Me as in diaspora, who also comes to Uganda, there's one issue actually, two issues that you can actually address. One, there's so many investigations in Uganda, either after murders or what, that end up in the President's office. And we never hear the results of those investigations. Why? I don't know. Okay. You struggle with it. Yeah. No, but these are investigations, and I'll tell you, starting from Haira's days, there was an investigation that ended up in the President's office. We don't know what happened. I can come to the later ones, like the investigation about there's a police guy that was killed, a chief. Kawesi. Okay? Okay, anyway. But there is several investigations, including the Karamoja Mabati. Don't know what has happened. Anyway, yeah. The other thing that I hear from here when I come home, he talked about patriotism. I'll tell you, people are complaining. I don't know whether it's complaining, the word. If the actions actually speak louder, me, I can be patriot, bring my money home and invest and whatnot. And I consider that being patriotic because I've invested here. Others are saying, if our leaders are patriotic, the way they spend money, when there are problems that concern the local. I'll give you an example. The presidential convoy of 30 cars had people, okay, and plus the ministers and what, when there are bigger problems. In other words, can the government reduce on their budget and address some of these issues? Agriculture, when you think of the budget that is attached to agriculture, to education and whatnot. I think those, to me, if they can be addressed.
Thank you so much. Can we just address those two and
I've been looking for money to waste, but I haven't found it. I don't know whether Honorable Nakabira has any money to waste in the Ministry of Energy. I can assure you, really, Corona also forced us to tighten our belts. The presidential convoy has also been trimmed, by the way. And the trimming has not come because maybe it is the reality. Travel abroad has been trimmed. Ministers are no longer flying in and out as they used to do. We actually don't have budgets for travel. And so the frugality, maybe the government is not talking a lot about it. Even the engine sizes of cars have been trimmed. When I arrived at the Ministry of Justice, there was a huge Nissan Patrol, I don't know, 5,700 cc. I got the message clearly when I reached Gulu and I found that, it was getting hard to manage the vehicle. So it is backed. Now we have got vehicles that take less than some of your smaller cars here. Maximum, if it is big, it is 3,300 cc. So it is your duty to continue pressurizing the government to be frugal. And any government that does not want to be pushed by the citizens is not worth its name. It is the duty of citizens to keep pushing governments. And there's a saying that it is the hinge that creaks that gets the grease. So if the hinge of a door does not make noise, it will never receive any grease. So as far as I'm concerned, these are things that we will go and talk about. I've been told that there's going to be a cabinet retreat soon. These are the feedbacks we shall give. If the perception is that we are wasteful in government, the convoys of the ministers, that also has to be understood in the context. There was a time when people were really being killed. And unfortunately, when people are killed, then you'll be the same people saying, why couldn't the government protect them? With all that army, which is all over the place, guaranteeing peace. You know, Uganda is called an anchor state. Even by these people criticizing us in Washington, D.C. here, when you read their reports, they say Uganda is an anchor state. An anchor state means that it is capable of projecting power in the region to achieve certain things. And that's what statescraft is about. Because there are certain things that a country has got to do. So, investigations, I think, in the case of Kawesi, some people have been charged. It wasn't like a commission, for purpose of a report. This is a crime investigation by the Criminal Investigation Department. It's not like the one of assassination of JFK, which up to today, there are those who don't even believe the report. And this is where it happened. I've been advised to go and visit the place. Yeah, so some Americans have rejected that report. We have had investigation into issues like land. I think it is coming to cabinet now. The one of Andrew Kalida, I'm surprised Moses hasn't taken a poke at me, because at that time my former party president was the Minister of Internal Affairs. Dr. Paul Kawanga Semogerere is actually the one who received the report from Scotland Yard. I haven't seen the report. I don't know where it is, but now that you are talking about it, I will raise it. There was a time somebody published a fake one. Somebody wrote a Kaira report from Scotland Yard and went around Uganda telling citizens that finally we have the report. But that is politics. So we will find out what it is. It is important for citizens to know why things happen. You may not change it. I don't know whether there is any. You hear a lot of stories about plots to assassinate so and so. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think the policy of this government has been elimination. That's really to the best of my knowledge. And I still don't have any reason. But they say in Africa, nobody dies naturally. They are killed. The other issue that you raised, I think the ambassador has really, really opened up the embassy. I really should credit you for opening up the embassy to our citizens who are here in the diaspora. And we will support your appeal for the embassy grants. The Minister of Finance, by his own admission, he says he's a very mean man. He has said it publicly, said I'm very mean. So we will see that these embassy grants are given. The other policy issues like taxes for citizens who are bringing back cars, maybe the URA is not popular, just like your IRS here. There's no tax body which is popular in the world. Nobody, but at least the system should be predictable, and it should work. So I would propose that we'll take back your suggestions, that given what you contribute, you know, when we fail to build a hospital, when we fail to provide medical insurance, it's you people who are the medical insurance for the people back home. So that must count for something. You're actually standing in the gap. We have got to appreciate that. So, and I don't think we are talking about thousands of cars. If I was to say how many of you are going to bring the latest hybrid from Elon Musk to Uganda, so it is possible for us to study. Rwanda's GDP is far less than ours. We have a bigger economy than Rwanda. Even their population is small, the size. Rwanda is really the size of like a Choli land, if you had to look at geography. So when we hear the challenges, we also feel jealous. So you have really challenged us. So we are going to go back with this homework and find out if you, for instance, want to set up a factory. The president is not very excited these days about apartments. I've not heard him talk a lot about apartments these days. His thing now is industry because of the jobs that you will create. But I think the government is in a position to give very big tax incentives. But also, if you really are investors in the real sense of the word, an investment license is something you should think about also. If you have a company, you are Ugandans, you want to go and establish maybe a coffee processing factory, you want to do shirts, I'm sure the government will allow your cars to come in. I see these Chinese with tax-free vehicles, and there are ways in which you can do that. So, Ambassador Muhindo, this is now your assignment to write your report. And the diaspora policy, I've not seen it, I've heard about it. If there's a draft, we would want to look at it. But the good thing is that you have now put these things on the table. That's what matters most. Nobody can run away from discussing them. And you are citizens. All of us want lower taxes. I keep complaining also when I see my paycheck. And it is not the smallest, but I'm also complaining. Yes.
Thank you. It's very difficult to talk after Comrade Mao. First of all, on the issues, Mr. Kalema, yes, he comes to Uganda quite often. About, I think, a month ago, we were together at Africo Band, so you can see.
Gentlemen, don't tell.
So, see the issues he raised, investigations, yes, the criminal investigations are handled by police, through DPP, and the court system. And the Honorable Mao has talked much about them. On convoys, on frugality, yes, Honorable Mao has also elaborated it well, but on the convoy of the president, all over the world, it will depend on the security threats available. So don't limit it to vehicles. I remember in 2007, I had come with the Minister of Foreign Affairs then to the General Assembly, the President had come. And a few days before the General Assembly in New York, the streets, we came to our Uganda house and the streets around were closed. When I asked, what's happening? He said, the Secretary of State is about to arrive. At that time it was Condoleezza Rice. All the roads were closed. around Uganda House and the UN General Assembly. So these things happen. So we don't think of limiting the size of the call of the president in view of trying to be frugal. It should be in respect to the security threat at the time. Then lastly, on taxes, I know for a fact that if you have been living outside Uganda and owned a car for more than 1 year, minimum is 1 year, that car enters Uganda tax-free. As you know, you see, so as you try to plan for the genuine, there are those who are going to do the opposite. Because if you left it open, people will make it a business. I'm in Uganda, I send money to you, buy me a car, then it comes in your name, then I start driving it in Uganda. So you must have shown you have owned this car in the States or in the UK or in Germany for over 1 year, minimum is 1 year, then you bring it in, it is tax-free. But if you have bought it 1 month and then you bring it in Uganda, you have owned it for 1 month, then it attracts a tax. So there is that flexibility. Otherwise, if you leave it open, then it can be abused. Then that's on the point which one of Mao raised. Maybe I used to, if you are going to invest in Uganda and you are Ugandan, if you are investing a minimum of $300,000 within the metropolitan Kampala, there is the metropolitan Kampala, meaning Kampala up to Wakiso, parts of Mukono, parts of Mpiji. You are entitled to a minimum of $300,000. You're entitled to a tax holiday of 10 years. And if you are setting up a factory, the imports which are coming in are entitled to be tax-free until you complete construction of the factory. If you invest outside the metropolitan Kampala, the minimum level of investment is $150,000. You are still entitled to a 10-year income tax holiday. No VAT and taxes or no inputs. If you are setting up a factory and so on and so forth. But some people tend to think that these tax holidays are only given to foreigners. In fact, for a foreigner, the minimum investment is $10 million to qualify for a tax holiday, 10-year tax holiday. For Uganda, it's less. That's why the issue of dual citizenship is important. And for you who are already Americans, if you are not, if you come with American passport, you will be considered as if you are a foreigner. So the embassy has been talking to you about the Ministry of Internal Affairs about dual citizenship. Feel free to apply for it. If you're going to be doing investments, there are many opportunities which you can derive from it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have to apologize. We have to end this. It's late and we have other programs to attend to. But I want to thank the panelists for having honored respond to our queries and questions. We also receive comments. We know that it is such open discussion that we can be able to get things done. We've done it before, we can continue to do it. And it's in the best interest of our country. I believe that everybody that is in here because there is a country called Uganda. So if we all believe in that, keep on coming and bring questions. You can also ask panelists offline if they are available to you. There's no problem with that. It doesn't have to be this confined room. The embassy is available to us. We can call them anytime. We can write to them. And so on and so forth. So without any further ado, I want us to let our panelists exit the room, and then we shall force. So thank you so much, and this is closed.
I'm blocking you.
No, you're good. Спасибо.
Where are you going to accept me?